To Kill a Mockingbird, why do you think that Atticus Finch is considered America's greatest character in literature?
Well, despite all the backlash he gets from the town, and despite the fact that he knows he's going to lose his case, he still defends Tom Robinson because he knows it's what's right to do, and he has to for his conscience. And he says, they're certainly entitled to think that, and they're entitled to full respect for their opinions. But before I can live with other folks, I've got to live with myself. The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience.
I agree with you because Atticus doesn't see people by their race or by their social class. He just sees them as normal people just like him. See on page 304, Scout says, I think there's just one kind of folks.
So throughout the book, there's a lot of important women who play a role in it. Do you think that they're portrayed in a positive or negative way?
A negative way because, for example, Aunt Alexandra, she's very uptight and she's forcing Scout to be a lady, trying to force her into something that she doesn't want to be.
But on the other hand, they're also portrayed in a positive way. For example, Miss Maudie or Calpurnia, because they teach Jim and Scout good values and how to treat everybody with the same respect.
Jem and Scout learn various lessons from the adults around them. How would you summarize what the kids learned from Miss Maudie, DuBose, and Calpurnia?
Well, I think that from Miss Maudie, on page 97, the kids really show that they understand that Miss Maudie, even in hard times, she stays positive, and it states that, grieving child, why I hated that old cow barn, thought of setting it fire to 100 times myself, except they locked me up.
And what Mrs. DeBose says, or does, she kind of shows them what courage is, because Atticus tells Scout and Jem that he wanted, or this is quotes, I wanted you to see what real courage is. Instead of getting the idea that courage is a man with a gun in his hand, it's when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway, and you see it through no matter what. And that kind of shows how she was courageous because she kind of had a morphine addiction, but she beat it before she died. That's kind of like what she did, but she knew that she was licked before she began.
So for Calpurnia, I think she's really the mother figure in Jem and Scout's lives. She plays an important role in teaching them basic things like manners and ethics. For example, on page 33, she says when Scout invites, when they have Walter Cunningham over, she says, doesn't matter who they are, anybody sets foot in this house. It's your company, and don't let me catch you remarking on their ways like he was so high and mighty.
Scout Finch is one of the most memorable and poignant narrators in American fiction. What do you guys think is a single event that truly captures her personality?
I think it's when the lynch mob comes to go see Tom Robinson in the jail. It really shows Scout's personality.
Yeah, it really shows her innocence because she doesn't understand that this is a lynch mob here to kill Tom Robinson.
So Scout was talking to her friend's father, Mr. Cunningham, and she didn't realize that he was there with another group of men to do something wrong.
So when Scout runs up to the mob, it shows how quick she is to react and how quick-tempered she is. Also her innocence again and how naive she is really comes into play because Mr. Cunningham realizes and starts to feel shame that this little child is telling and asking his son Walter when he's there about to do something wrong.
So in the last few lines of To Kill a Mockingbird, Scout says, he was real nice, and Atticus replies, most people are, Scout, when you finally see them. Do you agree that most people in this novel are nice once you see them? And how is Atticus able to see the good side of people despite all he has experienced?
So I think most people in the novel are nice once you see them because in the case of Boo Radley, everyone thought he was really crazy and weird and he stabbed his father in the leg. But turns out he wasn't, and he was kind of looking after everyone from afar and trying to make sure nobody got hurt, when he saved Jem and Scout kind of at the end of the book.
Atticus
Atticus is able to see the good side of people, even though he's experienced a lot of things. I think it's because he has a really strong will and conscience that it's really in him to defend and protect his people and see what's good about them.
Why did Harper Lee title her book To Kill a Mockingbird?
Well, the mockingbird is a symbol that shows innocence, and how in the book it's destroyed multiple times. The most obvious example of the mockingbird would be Tom Robinson, where how when he's shot, that symbolizes how an innocent man was shot, even though he hadn't committed any sins. Some other examples would be Boo Radley. For example, on page 370, Scout says, well, it'll be sort of like shooting a mockingbird. And in the previous scenes, Atticus had said that, and told Jem and Scout that it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. And Miss Maudie said it's because they don't do anything but make music for us to enjoy, and all they do is sing their hearts out for us.
Why does the author tell the story through the voice of Scout instead of Jem, Atticus, or Tom Robinson?
I think that Harper Lee uses Scout to show an innocent and unbiased perspective on the events of Macomb County, and it just really shows a different view of the entire Great Depression and the times of segregation that went during in Macomb in Alabama. And it keeps you just as confused and innocent as Scout, since we only see and hear and understand the things that she sees, hears, and understands. And I think that the innocence also goes on, just like how Jem and Scout thought about Boo Radley and how they saw him as this weird, creepy guy, even though we knew that that probably wasn't the case. But just that the way that Scout tells the story, it makes you see the things that she sees and makes you think what she thinks.
How can literature serve as a vehicle for social change?
It can serve as a vehicle for social change because when someone reads a piece of literature, it gives them another perspective and a viewpoint of someone who's being wronged by society. And Tom Robinson, in this case, in To Kill a Mockingbird, was the one who was being wronged because he was truly only an innocent man with a family, a wife and kids to provide for. And the justice system, it was prejudiced and racist, and it just really let him down because it was only good for white men because they valued white men's words against black people. And it acts as a vehicle because once you read a book, you're going to recommend it to other people, and they're going to read it and get that same perspective, and then it's going to start to change things.
This book is continually banned from the high school reading list because of racism, sex, and foul language. Do you believe this book should be banned? Even though this book was published in the 1960s, how can this book relate to today's society?
I honestly think that Mockingbird shouldn't be banned from the high school reading list because it clearly shows the effects of racism in a neighborhood. And like honestly, high school, if you're in high school, you're old enough to read about those 3 topics because like, yeah, you're old and mature enough. And like racism still exists in society. Like you can see it anywhere. And in high school, like many people already use that foul language, right guys? And the book also puts emphasis on social matters, like judging a person before like you get to know them. And also being way too protected when you grow up isn't always good because you don't know about a lot of the other things that are important and a lot of controversial topics.
Why does Atticus Finch risk his reputation, his friendships, and his career to take Tom Robinson's case? Do you think he risks too much by putting his children in harm's way?
Atticus risks these relationships because he is an honest man and he views everyone the same way. So he fights for Tom Robinson because he believes that he is innocent and did not do anything wrong. And Atticus understands that race shouldn't be a factor when you're determining the outcome of somebody's life. So I also don't think that Atticus risks too much by putting his children in harm's way because he uses the case to teach Jim and Scout valuable life lessons and to show them that everybody is equal no matter their race or social class. So because of his moral values, he fights for a cause that others may find unreasonable, which shows that he doesn't care what other people